Okay, so this is a video by what's this guy's name? This is from White Lives Matter. It's from their media channel within their Telegram channel, and this is a video called "Defiant" by a guy named Devin Stack. I haven't watched all this, so I'm not sure exactly where we're gonna end up. But I'm sure it's gonna be a fucking trip. Black pilled. Oh, being black pilled. So being red pilled is the Matrix metaphor the far right uses to imply that there is a separate reality out there that often includes Holocaust denial, Hitler being awesome, and white people having a racial consciousness. Being black pilled is the ultimate form of being red pilled. It's a point of no return into that sort of alternative history that the far right tells. Black pilled.
Several years ago, I went to see comedian Kamal Bell perform, and as a part of his act, he did something like a racial roll call to get the crowd warmed up.
Videos on the right are so
So
high
he started out and
contrast.
said, "Hey, black people in the house tonight." There was claps and cheers. And he said, "If you're black in here tonight and you're proud, I want you to put your fist in the air and yell black power." And all the black people in attendance with you.
I just want to say, videos on the right are always in this aesthetic where the exposure is cranked up to wash everything out, and then the contrast is cranked up to make the world look polarized.
Listening with pride, they put their fists in the air and they yelled black power. And then he said, "What about Latinos? Any Latinos in the house?" And there was claps and cheers. And he said, "If you're Latino in here tonight and you're proud, put your fist in the air and yell Latino power." Same thing. All the Latinos in unison with pride, they put their fist in the air and yelled Latino power. And then Kamal said, "Any white people in the house tonight?" And there was a few claps, and he said, "If you're white in here tonight and you're proud, I want you to put your fist in the air and yell white power." And there was silence.
Yeah, there was. I'm sure there was. Because it's really fucking lame to yell white power.
Be with us as we offer up a prayer for the end of white supremacy.
I want people to come into our country
Oh, that's kind of...
in the largest numbers ever.
That's actually kind of interesting. That's like a split from Trump there. They're using Trump to say he wants tons of... That was a weird cut of Trump saying he wants a ton of immigration. That almost seems like disingenuous.
Unrelenting stream of immigration. Non-stop.
We will come here, we have been coming here, and we will continue to come here in hundreds of millions until indeed Gaddafi said Europe will turn black.
The theory of the
Yeah.
Great Replacement is about demographic change. It's about this idea that, they also use the language of white genocide, the language that that white populations are shrinking ethnically due
This
to
is big.
demographic change, and that
I actually just ran an analysis yesterday of Stormfront content, and it was weird. The conversation around white genocide peaked in 2016, right when Trump was elected. And it's fallen off since, but it's still there. You got Tucker Carlson talking about replacement theory on Fox News now.
through birth rate replacement, there will be a shrinking and ever shrinking population of whites.
Some more news. The results of the 2020 census just came out, and for the first time in American history, the number of white people went down.
You see in some of these groups, especially the extreme right wing, there's this conspiracy theory about the great replacement conspiracy, essentially, which says that there's this great plot to replace white people with immigrants from other parts of the.
Yeah, so this is kind of an interesting thing, and I think this should be taken pretty seriously because it's really activating for white people on the right, which is that this threat of demographic change, in the most conspiratorial form, it's called white genocide. So there's this sense that white people are intentionally being cleansed in the United States, which, if you spend like a second living in the United States, is like not happening. It's not like a valid thing to believe. But the conspiratorial angle on that is, no, it's not just that, like, oh, people have somewhat lowered racial consciousness and there's like less segregation now, and thus people are just organically falling in love with one another and having families and building wonderful supportive households, and there being sort of a slow mixing of races in the United States. It's actually in its most conspiratorial form that specifically the Jewish cabal, the elites, which is code for Jewish cabal oftentimes, is orchestrating this, that this is intentional, that there's some big plot to force subtly the genocide of white people in the United States, and for that matter throughout the earth. And that is everywhere. It's weird when you hang out in these spaces on the internet, but that's what people think, that it's intentional. It's not just like, I don't know, time moving forward.
The Great Replacement theory, which says that white people are being systematically replaced by brown and black people who are, allegedly, according to this false conspiracy theory, being... I'm
going to say one other thing, and then I'm going to let it run for a little bit. This aesthetic, I love the aesthetics of the far right. We've got this like filter that makes it clear, or does the opposite of make it clear. It forces the aesthetic of there being a screen between us, the viewers, and these people behind the screen, something that obviously like screens try to avoid. You want a screen to not be visible. What they're doing here is inserting a screen between you, the viewer, and these people to suggest that everything that's going on behind the screen is an act, that it's a play that's orchestrated, and thus should not be trusted. Also, shouts out to Liz Cheney here. Urges GOP to denounce white supremacy. God damn it. I'm just going to say this. I ran a congressional campaign against Liz Cheney last year. 2 years ago at this point. No, last year. 2 years ago in Wyoming. I hate Liz Cheney. But you got to give her some credit for this shit. She's, at least in some dimensions of politics, sticking to her guns. And look at that. Denounces white supremacy. Fucking Liz.
Brought in.
Let's waterboard white supremacy.
The challenges that governments and communities across the world have to face right now is understanding that even if that's true, we have to find ways to frame demographic change in other ways.
Yeah,
Folks
it's fine.
Like me
it's great.
Who are Caucasian of European descent, for the first time in 2017, will be in an absolute minority in the United States of America.
Replacement conspiracy theory.
Absolute minority.
Absolute
Fewer
minority.
than 50% of the people in America, from then and on, will be white European stock.
That great replacement.
It's worth noting that people of German descent are the largest ethnic group in the United States, just ahead of people of African descent.
Conspiracy theory.
That's not
German people aren't doing too bad.
That's a source of our strength.
I think that for so long, the dominant culture has been white culture, that honestly, I think it's good that there's other voices getting the chance to be the dominant culture.
Great replacement conspiracy theory.
Part of this greater America that we see on the horizon and that is arriving daily is just simply waiting for old white guys like me to die off, and we're going to have a new America.
And you're okay saying that?
Oh, absolutely.
With a smile.
Oh, yeah. Sure.
Wow, that guy seems chill as fuck.
They put forth conspiracy theories with respect to white genocide and the Great Replacement.
This idea that this conspiracy theory really of white genocide, that there's going to be this great replacement, as it's called, of migrants from other countries replacing American citizens, and here in Europe as well.
Today I saw a thing that said a lot of...
Okay, I just want to make this clear again. We got to separate two things. Is demographic change happening? Yes, demographic change is happening. are the elites, and specifically Jewish globalist elites, coordinating it? I don't think so. The other thing here is demographic change happening? Yes. And another thing that's important to say within that is that the sense of what white is has been a shifting target forever. I wouldn't be surprised if, give it another 50 years or something, and whole categories of people that, let's say, ethnic groups that have been migrating to the United States in large numbers, might be understood as, the dominant white culture. Whiteness is as this ever expanding blob of mixed ethnicities that have been naturalized to this continent to a certain extent. It is not, whiteness is not a biological fact. It is a constructed thing of which the bounds shift constantly. So to think that it's a static thing that's going to, necessarily be to decrease until extinction is like fucking idiotic. This is a classic thing though. It's like life isn't static. Stuff moves. Ideas move, especially things that are socially constructed to begin with. Move quick.
Men were committing suicide. And I almost thought, yeah, great.
I think there's a resurgence of anti-Semitism because at this point in time, Europe has not yet learned how to be multicultural. And I think we're going to be part of the throes of that transformation, which must take place. Europe is not going to be the monolithic societies that they once were in the last century. Jews are going to be at the center of that. It's a huge transformation for Europe to make. They are now going into a multicultural mode, and Jews will be resented because of our leading role. But without that leading role and without that transformation, Europe will not survive.
They have a shared fear in conspiracy theory, something called the white genocide or the great replacement, which says that Jews are the head of this cabal.
Ensure that we can get this kind of material before it comes on to the internet.
The conspiracy theory, that of the great replacement.
Okay, we've got people of color.
Our country is changing. It's a demographically changing nation. White
classic.
People will no longer be the majority of the country.
The end
My guess is people
white
of color
Christian America.
Because
will only
demographic
be shown
change between 1980 and 2000
on the streets,
in California,
hitting people in this
going
video.
from about 2/3 white to majority people of color, is the demographic change the United States is going through between 2000 and 2050.
This false conspiracy theory.
There is a major demographic change going on in this country. Whites are projected to lose their majority in the next 30 years or so, by 2043, according to the Census Bureau.
Country where the demographics are changing, it's becoming less white.
Correct. It's changing.
Yeah, this is classic shit.
White men
It's like
are
show
set to become
a bad neighborhood in Charlotte.
Majority minority.
Look at how scary this is.
Whatever it is. And so by necessity...
Wouldn't you be scared if you were a white person and you were here?
With this massive demographic change in this country, whites are on the verge of losing their majority status.
America has changed demographically. White political clout is not what it used to be.
Bro, let's just say it. Like, even if whites become a minority, you know that the Republican Party is going to do some shit so that they can put together a minority rule because they're real good at it.
will not be the majority. I mean, it's an exciting transformation of the country. It's an exciting evolution and progress of our country in many different ways. Clearly, there's, among white supremacists, white nationalists, that is viewed as a horrific event.
This is not going to be the country of white people.
White British population has decreased by 600,000, while the minority population has increased by 1.2 million. So yes, lads, we're winning.
We want, people say demographics are not destiny. Well, we're trying to make it destiny. So that's the work that we're doing.
More of this like dash cam of being scared of
never
people
going to
of
be
color.
white again. It's just not going to happen. People can wish it, but it's not realistic.
White Americans will soon be a minority, and that's great.
A lot of the real craziness comes, if you like, from rural white Americans who feel that they're losing their country, they're losing ownership of the country. And they're right. I mean, we are becoming more diverse, more multicultural, and they are, in the end, they are not the future. In the end, the power they still have will go away.
We actually,
there's
a number of studies that suggest we shouldn't be.
That's not true. That's, if you understand how the Senate works, rural America will always be overrepresented in this country. If you understand how the Electoral College works, rural America will always be overrepresented in this country. It's going to take a long time for that not to be true, and a lot of literal changes to the Constitution. That's not something people should be afraid of.
Worrying too much about making white kids feel bad because they get so much false messages about their goodness that it's actually kind of critically important for them. White guilt has to happen. It's a developmental need. If you believe in equity and you live in this kind of system and you're white, you're going to hit white guilt.
So this morning, the baby woke up.
Yeah, I bet this chunk of videos is gonna make my stomach twist a little bit here.
And had some sort of violence in her heart. I don't know what it was, but she has been losing her mind all day. And it's interesting because I'm watching her lose her mind, and then I'm watching the preteen respond to that by trying to make her happy. And I have had to actively tell him, stop trying to make her feel better, stop responding to her tears. It's so interesting to see the conditioning of people responding to white girl tears happening so early.
This little cutie is my son.
Okay, that's a bad take. Just gonna say it. That's not. That's a really dehumanizing perspective on how race works. Yeah, I don't know. If a child is crying, you should help them. Doesn't really matter what race they are. Sorry.
As you can see, my son is a white male. So here are some books that I bought to help prevent him from growing up to be awful.
Michaela is a 7th grader at a majority white middle school. Her responses, according to our expert, Dr. Melanie Killen, could indicate a subconscious racial bias.
Dr. Donald Moss is an author and faculty member at both the New York Psychoanalytical Institute and the San Francisco Center for Psychoanalysis, where he tells his students that whiteness is contagious, can be passed on by other infected people, and that you are more prone to contract whiteness if you are white. So now Dr. Moss has published a report that calls whiteness a, quote, malignant parasitic-like condition that enables the host to have, quote, power without limit, force without restriction, violence without mercy.
I am, as a white person, a racist. It does.
These are some bad takes from the left. Just gonna say it.
And that my beliefs are purposeful and I'm doing things on purpose. And
these are also. This is not how most people frame. This is like the far left, weird misappropriation of sociological thinking where everything becomes some weird where a sociologized worldview overtakes the sort of shared reality we all live in a little bit.
Yet I can't be a white person living in this society and not be benefiting from racism.
That's true.
America has a problem and its name is whiteness.
Yeah, that's true too.
White people, how does it feel to be a problem?
Not great.
I realize that I'm white and that I have all the advantages of being part of that group. Privileges that I don't really think I fully understood until yesterday. I was reading White Fragility. I'm like, oh, okay.
Classic text.
I'm taking that next step in my journey to understanding what's happening.
This lady's awesome.
What equity is about, what racial equity is about, what anti-racism is about, and what racism is about.
Look, this is the type of, not that hard, but this is the type of learning that that the White Lives Matter folks just don't want to do. It's just out of laziness or fear or something. This lady rules. She's really cool. She's also got a nice color. Good
I'm
drip.
white, and I checked the box that I'm white, and I grew up in an all-white school, all-white community. I was raised to be such an individual, and I think of myself as such an individual, that really, in thinking about this video, I realized that I'm white as part of a white supremacy culture.
And I want to understand white rage.
Millie.
And I'm white, and I want to understand it.
Well, I must say, to Claire's point, I'm increasingly embarrassed to be a white male these days.
All white people are racist. So I put this up because I really want any white person in the room to know up front that this is what we're dealing with, that it's not going to be this coddling of white tears and what that looks like. We're not going to discuss, oh, maybe some of us have worked it out. No, you're always going to be racist, actually. So even when you're on your path to trying to figure out how to be a better human being, because I believe that white people are born into not being human, like that actually
that's not good. Not good to do the white people are not human thing. I'm sympathetic to activist language that sometimes means ends that should be, I mean, sometimes there's convoluted paths to a better world and towards the end that you want, which is a less white supremacist thing, but it's not good in any context to do the dehumanizing thing. Yeah.
Color and black folks being dehumanized, that actually everyone is dehumanized off rip within white supremacy, that y'all are born into a
white
life
supremacy
to
affects
not be
everyone.
human, and that's what y'all are taught to do, to be demons. So in this particular way, white people are all racist.
Excuse me, I work for Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry, I work for Black Lives Matter. I'm sorry that I scared you. But since I work for that company, my CEO has told me to come out today and to bring you on your knees because you have white privilege. So if they see that a white person is getting on their knees, that shows solidarity for the situation. The situation.
My guess is this guy's not part of Black
Could you just
Lives
please
Matter.
apologize for your white privilege?
I don't like this.
Just apologize.
I am. I'm trying to think of the
This
right
is
words
super
to say.
humiliating.
That's a big thing.
Like public
It's big.
humiliation.
Comes from.
It's large in this country.
I'm incredibly sorry.
I mean, first there were white settlers, and they often used terror and violence to take land from indigenous peoples. But then the very first real terrorist cell in America, first terrorist organization in America, was made up of white supremacist forces of the defeated Confederacy in the aftermath of the Civil War.
Truth.
And they arose because they didn't like the demographic change that was happening.
Would it be fair to say, based on your expertise, that white people are psychopathic?
I think so. Yeah.
And
That was a
white
leading question.
people make other people think that black people are bad, so that's why black people don't have power. If a white person kills a black person, they call it self-defense, but if a black person kills a white person, it says murder.
Facts,
so even
facts,
the most liberal, well-intentioned white person has a virus in his or her brain. White people are always innocent, and their innocence constitutes their crime. It is too late to be innocent.
Realize the biggest terror threat in this country is white men, most of them radicalized to the right. And we have to start doing something about them. There is no travel ban on them. There is no ban on, they had the Muslim ban. There is no white guy ban. So what do we do about that?
All of these groups of people, the issues they face, it all comes from the same.
It's tough. Yeah, no, the terrorists of this century will come from within is very real. There's not going to be a civil war. The world is not rigged up for a civil war, but the polarization along urban-rural lines is very real. Those sort of political shapes often lead to not full-out wars, but terrorism. And there will be enormous amounts of white terrorism throughout the next century, no doubt. Based on the way things are going and all this stuff that's out there and the recruitment, how good White Lives Matter and other groups like it are at recruiting people, no doubt. We've got a lot of terrorism coming at us here.
People, white men, so we need to get rid of them.
It'll be in the name of
country
God,
should be more fearful
of white men across our country, because they are actually causing most of the deaths within this country.
Black power, white lives do not matter. You told white lives don't matter.
When we say we want to kill whitey, we don't really mean we want to kill whitey, we do.
White supremacy is on track to destroy the entire planet, and black power is the only thing that can stand in its way and stop it.
And there's a whole generation, I say this,
Hell yeah,
I said
Oprah.
this, for apartheid South Africa. I said this for my own, community in the South. There are still generations of people, older people, who were born and bred and marinated in it, in that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
O.C. Frangpong, who calls himself the funky academic online, recently commented on Facebook.
Okay, I just want to say my guess is what they're going to do here is that that they're going to look, there's this classic thing that genocidal consciousnesses arise in response to perceived genocidal consciousnesses. So I think what they're probably doing here is that they're going to say that what Oprah just said, right, that people need to die. What did she say?
In that prejudice and racism, and they just have to die.
Yeah. Okay. What they're implying here is that she's advocating for genocide. That's not what's happening here. This is Oprah. What Oprah is saying here, which is more or less true, is that some things in society can't be changed in a lifetime. Sometimes there are intergenerational problems, and racism and extreme white racism towards non-white people is just something that is going to take generations. It's hard to get people out of the trench with these sorts of just inflamed, culturally salient prejudices. And she's right. But she's not advocating for genocide here. She's advocating for time.
O.C. Frangpong, who calls himself the funky academic online, recently commented on Facebook, some white people may have to die for black communities to be made whole.
Some white people may have to die.
You stick with that.
I'm confused on why that's so controversial.
And I kill all the white people in the world.
Sick. That's what they're doing. That funky academic guy sounds like that was not a good frame. I hope that guy doesn't actually mean that there should be a policy in place to kill white people. This is probably a joke. This is, I think, the SNL. This looks like his opening monologue on SNL.
How great is that?
So that's a joke, right?
One idea is how we are going to exterminate white people, because that, in my estimation, is the only conclusion I have come to.
This is bad. Nope. This is a bad conclusion to come to. Kamau Kamban. No one will be exterminated in this country. Sorry. Can't get behind that.
To exterminate white people off of the face of the planet
this is
to
bad.
solve this problem.
This is bad.
They are a race. They're trying to hold on to power because race has beginning and an ending.
Random assaults in Manhattan, including a possible hate crime. Police had released surveillance video of the suspect walking on the street shirtless. Investigators say he attacked at least 4 people this month, 3 of them on August 14th. A 58-year-old man in Chelsea was hit in the face while the suspect allegedly shouted anti-white comments.
The chief said Muhammad also told officers he hates white people. All 3 victims were white men.
Y'all racists grab the white devils. We will continue to bring destruction and wrath upon America.
Postings on its Facebook page contain racially charged images and videos.
During the standoff, he said he wanted to kill white people.
He was upset about Black Lives Matter. The suspect stated he wanted to kill white people, especially white officers.
Yeah, this is
Baby
bad.
says at one point in the rant, the strange man threatens to kill every white person in the restaurant.
The vandals who spray painted Black Lives Matter and kill white people on walls, businesses, and homes. According to witnesses, a large group of black teenagers rampaged through the Midway late Wednesday, with several fights breaking out, and there were several attacks that may have been racially motivated.
A group of 4 African-American men and women laugh as they strike the mentally challenged white victim. he's bound and gagged. They slice off his clothing and cut his hair until his scalp bleeds.
What the fuck? What is this? This looks like fucking high school. What the fuck is this? Whoa. We still got this like weird editing of this fucking video.
They beating up every white person. They jumping every white person.
Look, I'm gonna say it. I'm like, I don't think that. I mean, in an ideal world, black people shouldn't be beating up white people just because they're white. But, and this is not to justify any of this, but, yeah, like, can understand many generations of trauma in this country and being fucking pissed at white people for generating a racial consciousness for themselves and, you know, tormenting while enslaving and then tormenting and marginalizing in every fucking possible way politically for generations. Like, I can understand, like, pent-up rage, and I mean, I think it... I can sympathize with this perspective. But this is, again, White Lives Matter supercut of black on white crime. There's, I mean, on Stormfront, where I hang out a lot, and on most sites like this, there's a black on white crime section. Breitbart was sort of like accused of having that for years, but Bannon said that there wasn't, and there was just a theme.
He won! Finish it! Bitch!
But this is right. This is a classic foreground. This digs deep into American mythology about race, that black men in particular are violent, and that they're violent in this particular way, which is towards white people, and that they should be understood as dangerous. So this is like selecting content to fit a myth that exists, and thus it's powerful. It like affects people. I can imagine being some of the white people I grew up around in upstate New York and seeing this and it feeling powerful, you know, it feeling real and valid, because that cultural myth is so potent in our country.
The goal is to dismantle white supremacy, and white supremacy is white culture. Then the goal has to be to dismantle white culture and ultimately white people themselves.
That's a bad take. Sam is unemployed. What the fuck? Some world star hip hop like fight footage here. This is like the content I grew up on online. The guy's kind of loving it. Look at this. It's probably his friend. Fucking menacing audio. Looks like Minneapolis.
They're squad cars from North Hollywood Division.
Of course, there's got to be a huge fucking George Floyd riot section here. Right, this is what is being used as propaganda, as recruitment videos for White Lives Matter, to be clear. That's what we're watching here.
What you got, bro? Let me see what you got.
America's Funniest Home Video.
It's broken. We saw something similar happen earlier.
Patagonia. White boy sponsored by Patagonia. Look, like, what the fuck is this? Is this paramilitary? I don't know, what is this? Is this Antifa? This is a classic look here.
Our experience on the ground confirms this.
Merrick.
The number of open FBI domestic terrorism investigations this year has
Should be on the Supreme
increased
Court.
significantly.
Fuck you,
According to
McConnell.
an unclassified summary of the March intelligence assessment, the two most lethal elements of the domestic violence extremist threat are racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and militia violent extremists. In the FBI's view, the top domestic violent extremist threat comes from racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
Okay, I don't know how many people here know this, but Merrick Garland was, I think, really, really involved in the prosecution of Timothy McVeigh during the Oklahoma City bombing, which it's incredible that this is even happening here because Timothy McVeigh killed 168 people, children, during the Oklahoma City bombing in 95. He was a militia member. He was a white radical terrorist that bombed a federal building. And it's something that is not talked. I mean, I was alive. I didn't know the details of that until, I mean, let's say like 2 years ago. It was the biggest mass casualty event on American soil between Pearl Harbor and 9/11, and it's like lost to history. And I mean, one could say, I think it's a legitimate thing to say, is like, it's because the dude was a fucking dumbass white guy shaped like Eminem. I mean, Eminem's awesome, but we've sort of written that out of history for some reason, because he's white. And Merrick Garland was that was like the first big case of his career, which is why, I mean, people were saying this when he was appointed Attorney General recently, but he's Attorney General right now because he has tons of experience with white domestic radical terrorists. Not because he was robbed of a Supreme Court seat.
The militia violent extremist threat, which is describes as those who, quote, take overt steps to violently resist or facilitate the overthrow of the United States government in support of their belief that the United States government is purportedly exceeding its constitutional authority, also increased last year and will almost certainly continue to be elevated throughout 2021.
He's right. Are we in the Capitol now? Okay, where are we? We're in just destruction. We're just showing destruction now. Is this a metaphor for our country according to White Lives Matter?
Father, we ask for forgiveness from our black brothers and sisters.
We've got the religious white folks.
Years of racism.
Oh.
Thank you, Chief! Thank you, Chief! Thank you, Chief!
the fall of Rome here. We've got Jefferson falling. Was that Jefferson? Jefferson was a... Everyone should read more about Thomas Jefferson. He is... I was having a drink with Derek Black recently, whose father started Stormfront, and he's a sort of, anti-racist micro-celebrity, recovered from a white supremacist, white nationalist upbringing, and he said to me, actually, over a beer, that Jefferson was the start of this. So if y'all want to understand what's happening right now, you got to understand Thomas Jefferson. Not to say everything he wrote was terrible, There are a lot of sort of governance structure values that I actually agree with Jefferson on. But his ideas about nature and race and, society we're not great. Also, I'm down to get rid of all of these statues that went up during the civil rights era to intimidate black people by... Who's that? It's interesting that this is part of propaganda, recruitment material here for White Lives Matter, that... Whoa. That, this is something that made the cut, They're fucking statues. Goodbye, religion's gone too. Is this the metaphorical end of America? Oh, yes. No, there's going to be a rebirth. Here we go. The white rebirth, I'm sure. We got a bunch of sagebrush. We're probably somewhere in my hood of Wyoming. I do miss the smell of sagebrush. Some straight trees there. We've got white kids. This kid right here is this image. This image is what people, when they wear their MAGA hats, imagine they want the world to be like. They want children in fucking plaid business suits at the age of 6. Yeah, we need post-war fucking America again. No thank you. No thank you. This is kind of a dope shirt though with the dots. So nostalgic. Oh yeah, we got Wyoming vibes. God, I actually feel man, we just need white women in glasses and little dogs again. Remember when America was so good and there were white women and dogs? We need that again. Whoa. I feel like this is literally Du Bois, Wyoming. I feel like I know where this is. This is literally on an Indian reservation. Oh my god, no way. Are we approaching the Tetons? Oh, remember when women did their hair like that? Aspens. This is the world we want. Lodgepole pines. And white women hair. And grab it. I think there's the observers. Oh, baby. No fucking way. No fucking way. Y'all. Let's go. We got Teton vibes here. And this is, let's see, snowpack. This is like early June in the Tetons. We got the first blooms in the valley. Hey, it's a beautiful place. Very white place. Very, very white place. I understand why white people use this as propaganda to recruit other white people to make a white country. Or whatever the fuck they're trying to do. Jackson Lake. Teeing up. A big cottonwood. Jesus Christ, this is cool. Mule deer. Yellowstone Falls. Yep. Wild. Yeah, this is like what white people love. Having lived there for a long time, I can tell you white people love this shit. Is that it? That's what they're using to recruit more white people. Okay. Thoughts. It was kind of boring. Let's see. I mean, what did we have? We had you can't say white power. We had the introduction of this like screen filter to remind you that everything you're seeing behind a screen is not real, except what you see on, Gab and Getter and the fucking dregs of the internet and Stormfront. That's the real stuff. We've got Jimmy Fallon. We've got this whole sense of like white genocide being really central here. That the real threat is that there is this, let's whisper it, Jewish-led cabal to get people to kill off the white race. And, it's not just tons of people making decisions for themselves. It's some big fucking conspiracy. Like everything has to be on the right, because that's how folks on the right expect the world to exist. I mean, when you grow up in a sort of like more adjacent to Christianity sort of epistemology or way of knowing or like understanding of how knowledge and causality works, everything has to sort of come from the top at a certain point, which is like, not to say that, well, I might say this. I wasn't raised that way. And so I'm not always looking for like the big conspiracy, I think. It's almost like Christianity and the structure of like this big thing at the top really being behind everything predisposes people to expect that in the real world. And I don't know. I think it's dumb.
Replacement theory, which says that white people are being systematically
Yep. White people being systematically replaced. Black people are scary. The Jews are behind it. Look at all these liberals. They're dumb. They're telling their children to be mean to white kids because white kids are bad. And that was kind of it. And just a lot of like people of color fucking shit up, because that's what people of color do, right? Right? No, that's not what people of color do. These are like very specific events in American history that precipitated these riots. This is all from the George Floyd shit. And then Merrick Garland, who is like an incredible human being, talking about the threat of the very real threat of white violence, white terrorism in this country, which he knows very well because he fucking prosecuted Timothy McVeigh, who killed 160 people in a terrorist attack that no one ever talks about. Fucking God. Merrick Garland rules. And whiteness is the American West, and let's just go back to when the world looked like this and join White Lives Matter. All right, whatever. It's like isn't great recruitment material. I'm just gonna say it. It's kind of boring, but it's worth knowing what they're using, what they call mandatory for new recruits to White Lives Matter. So I hope you like it. I'm gonna make more videos and shit at some point, but later.